Emma stepped off the dusty bus, the tires crunching softly over the gravel road leading to her aunt's ranch. The late afternoon sun painted the sky in soft shades of orange and pink, casting long shadows over the wide open fields. She pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. Though it wasn't particularly cold, the air smelled faintly of hay and earth, a scent she hadn't noticed in years. This was nothing like the city she had left behind, the city full of noise, hurry, and strangers brushing past each other without a word. Her aunt's ranch was far from the nearest town. Rolling hills stretched in every direction, dotted with clusters of trees and fences that marked the edges of grazing land. Emma had always loved the idea of being somewhere quiet, somewhere she could breathe without the constant hum of traffic or the press of too many people. But as the bus drove away, leaving her alone on the long gravel driveway, she felt a pang of nervousness. "Don't worry, Emma. You'll manage just fine," she whispered to herself. She adjusted the strap of her bag and started toward the main house, her boots crunching against the stones. She tried to picture herself here for the next few months, feeding animals, mending fences, taking care of the land. But her mind kept flickering back to the city streets, to her tiny apartment and the life she had left behind. As she reached the farmhouse, she noticed movement near the barn. A tall man with broad shoulders and a worn hat was leaning against the fence, brushing dust off his hands. His face was tanned from years in the sun, and his eyes, a warm shade of brown, held a calm patience. He looked up as she approached, and for a moment Emma felt a little caught off guard. "Hi," she said softly. The man straightened and gave a small, polite smile. "You must be Emma. I'm Jack. Your aunt told me you'd be here for a while." His voice was gentle but firm, the kind that made you feel safe even if you didn't know him. Emma nodded, suddenly aware that she hadn't expected anyone to meet her. "Yes, I hope I can manage." Her voice sounded smaller than she intended. Jack chuckled quietly, a sound that made the tension in her shoulders ease a little. "You'll do fine. Ranch work isn't as scary as it looks. It just takes patience and a little care." He tilted his head toward the barn. "Come on, I'll show you the basics." As they walked toward the barn, Emma noticed the quiet way Jack moved, each step measured and steady. He didn't rush, and there was no sense of urgency in his voice. He pointed out the horses, explaining their names, their habits, and how each one had its own personality. Emma listened closely, fascinated by the gentle way he spoke about the animals. She had never been around horses much, but she felt a strange comfort in the calm confidence Jack radiated. When they reached one of the stables, Emma hesitated. A large brown horse lifted its head and snorted, its nostrils flaring. She stepped back instinctively. Jack noticed immediately and came closer. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. He didn't grab her hand or push her forward. Instead, he stood beside her, letting the horse approach them slowly. "He won't hurt you. Just talk to him." Emma swallowed nervously and whispered, "Hello, boy." The horse tilted its head, ears twitching, then nuzzled her hand. She gasped softly, startled by how gentle the creature was. Jack gave her an encouraging nod. "You see? He's friendly. You just need to trust him." His smile was small but sincere, and something in it made Emma's chest feel lighter, as if a small weight she hadn't realized she carried had shifted. The days that followed were full of simple tasks that quickly became routine. Emma learned to feed the animals, muck out stalls, and mend broken fences. Each task felt exhausting at first, but there was a quiet satisfaction in completing them. Jack was always nearby, offering guidance without ever being overbearing. He explained how to lift bales of hay without hurting her back, how to lead a horse without startling it, and how to tell when a cow was sick just by the way it moved. It wasn't just the work itself that intrigued Emma. It was the rhythm of life on the ranch. The early mornings, the warm sunlight streaming over the hills, the smell of fresh hay, and the distant sound of animals moving about. It was all so different from the crowded streets and constant noise of the city. And amidst all of this, Jack's calm presence felt grounding. He didn't ask too much about her past or her life in the city, but he listened when she spoke, and he noticed the small details that made her who she was. One evening, after they had finished checking the fences, they sat on the porch overlooking the fields. The sky was painted in deep shades of purple and gold, and the first stars were beginning to twinkle. Emma hugged her knees to her chest, feeling a wave of emotion she hadn't expected. I've never I mean, no one's ever held my hand before, she admitted quietly, almost as if she were afraid the words would vanish if she spoke them aloud. She looked down at her lap, cheeks warm with embarrassment. Jack didn't respond immediately. He simply turned toward her, his eyes soft but unreadable. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and took her hand in his. There was no rush, no pressure, just a steady, reassuring warmth. He gave a small, understanding smile and squeezed her hand lightly. Emma felt a strange mix of comfort and surprise. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from the quiet reassurance in the simple act. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was gentle, patient, and somehow exactly what she needed. She realized, for the first time in a long while, that she could allow herself to trust someone again. After a few moments, they let go, but the silence between them wasn't awkward. Instead, it felt filled with unspoken understanding, a quiet promise that neither of them had to rush. They watched the stars together, the sound of the ranch settling into the night around them, and Emma felt something shift inside her. She wasn't just a visitor here. She was part of this space now, and perhaps part of something slowly growing between them. Over the next few weeks, their connection grew in small, meaningful ways. Jack would leave a warm cup of coffee for her in the mornings, and Emma began to anticipate his gentle advice on how to handle the horses. Sometimes they worked in companionable silence, and sometimes they laughed at small mishaps, like when Emma accidentally let a gate swing open, letting a few sheep wander down the hill. Jack had calmly guided them back, laughing softly with her, and Emma had felt a happiness she hadn't known in years. It wasn't a sudden love or a whirlwind romance. It was quiet, patient, and real. Emma felt safe to be herself, to make mistakes, and to slowly let someone into her world. And Jack, in his own quiet way, was opening up too, showing her that he could care deeply without needing to say much. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the ranch was bathed in gold, Emma realized she hadn't felt this peaceful in a very long time. She looked at Jack, standing by the fence, and felt a gentle warmth in her chest. She didn't need words to describe it. The simple gestures, the slow understanding, and the quiet moments were enough, and in that moment, she knew that whatever happened in the months to come, she had found something rare, someone who would hold her hand carefully, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The weeks passed quickly, and Emma found herself settling into the rhythm of ranch life. Mornings began before the sun fully rose, the sky painted in soft pink and gold, and the air smelled of fresh earth and hay. She learned the sounds of the animals, the way the horses shifted their weight, the soft lowing of the cows, the chirping of birds as the day began. Each sound became a small part of her day, comforting in its familiarity. Jack was always nearby, guiding her with a steady hand but never rushing her. Some days were harder than others, lifting heavy bales of hay, chasing runaway sheep, fixing broken fences, but Emma began to take pride in her ability to handle the tasks. The work tired her muscles and made her evenings quiet and reflective, but it also gave her a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt in the city. Their friendship deepened naturally, with small gestures that spoke louder than words. Jack would leave an extra blanket on her bed when he noticed the nights were getting colder, or a warm cup of cocoa waiting for her after a long day. Emma would leave freshly baked bread or cookies for him, and sometimes just the sight of him smiling at the gesture made her heart lift. Neither of them said much about feelings, but the bond was undeniable, growing slowly like the grass in the fields they tended together. One particularly warm afternoon, a sudden storm rolled in over the hills. Dark clouds filled the sky and wind whipped across the fields. The animals sensed the change and became restless, whinnying, lowing, and bleating. Emma's heart pounded as she realized how unprepared she was for such a sudden storm. The wind slammed against the barn doors and rain began to pour in thick sheets. Jack appeared at her side almost immediately. "We need to get the horses inside and secure the other animals," he said calmly, though his eyes were alert. "Come on, quickly now." Emma followed him, her hands shaking slightly as they guided the frightened horses into the stables. Jack moved with confidence, steadying the animals and giving instructions in short, clear sentences. Emma tried to mirror his calm, but her nerves made her stumble more than once. Jack was patient, gently guiding her hand when she struggled to latch a stall door and giving her a reassuring smile. The storm lasted hours, and by the time it subsided, the ranch had suffered some minor damage. A fence was down near the far field, and some of the hay bales had been scattered. Emma felt a wave of guilt, worried she hadn't done enough, but Jack put a hand on her shoulder. "You did more than I could have asked," he said simply. "Storms happen. We fix what's broken. That's all there is to it." His words, calm and steady, made her chest relax. She realized that this was more than just a place to work. It was a place where mistakes could be corrected, where patience and understanding mattered more than perfection. And Jack's presence reminded her that she wasn't alone. In the days that followed, they worked together to repair the damage. Mending the fence took hours under the sun, and stacking the scattered hay bales tested their strength. But there was laughter in their efforts, small jokes exchanged when a nail bent or a bale slipped from their hands. Emma noticed how much she relied on Jack, not just for guidance but for support, and how comforting it was to share these challenges with someone who understood, without needing to explain too much. One evening, after a particularly long day, they sat on the porch again, watching the sunset spill golden light across the fields. Emma leaned back in her chair, exhaustion and satisfaction mingling in a warm glow. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything, for being patient with me, for teaching me, and just for being here." Jack looked at her, his eyes soft and steady. "You don't need to thank me. I enjoy having you around. You work hard and you care. That's enough for me." Emma hesitated, then laughed softly, a sound that carried the tension of the day away. "It's hard to believe I feel at home here already. It's like I've been searching for something and I didn't even know what it was." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the things we need find us in quiet ways. We just have to be patient enough to notice." Their hands brushed lightly as they leaned back in their chairs, and without thinking, Emma reached for his. This time the gesture was mutual. Their fingers intertwined naturally, comfortably, like they had been meant to connect that way all along. Emma's heart beat faster, but there was no fear, only a sense of safety and trust. Over the following weeks, the bond between them continued to deepen. They shared stories of their pasts, quiet memories that revealed who they were beyond the surface. Emma spoke of her city life, her work, and the friends she had left behind. Jack spoke of his years on the ranch, the challenges of living so close to the land and the losses he had endured along the way. There was no rush to share everything at once. Their conversations came in pieces, like threads being carefully woven into a larger tapestry. One rainy afternoon, Emma found herself alone in the barn, tending to a horse with a minor injury. Jack came in quietly, not to interrupt but to help. He watched her for a moment, then spoke in that calm, measured tone that had become so reassuring. "You're doing fine. Don't overthink it." Emma looked up, meeting his eyes, and smiled. "I know, it's just, sometimes I feel like I'll mess something up." Jack stepped closer and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then I'll be here. That's all. No matter what happens, you won't be alone." The simplicity of his words struck her. They weren't grand declarations, no dramatic gestures, just honesty and reliability. And for Emma, who had experienced loss and disappointment in her past, it meant everything. As summer faded into early autumn, the ranch became more than just a place of work. It became a home, a place of growth, and a space where Emma learned to trust and care again. She watched the changing seasons with a sense of wonder, noticing the leaves turning golden, the crisp air settling in the mornings, and the quiet beauty of life moving forward at its own pace. One evening, after a long day of harvesting, they sat on the porch, the sky painted with the colors of dusk. The world was quiet except for the distant rustle of trees and the occasional call of a bird. Emma looked at Jack, the man who had patiently guided her, who had shown her that kindness could be steady and strong. "I never thought I'd find someone like this," she admitted softly. Jack's smile was slow, calm, and comforting. "Sometimes we find the right people when we least expect it." Emma reached for his hand again, holding it firmly this time. He took it without hesitation, his thumb brushing gently over hers. It was a simple gesture, but for Emma, it was everything, a promise of trust, of patience, and of a bond built on understanding rather than expectation. They stayed that way for a while, holding hands in silence, letting the quiet of the evening speak for them. No words were needed. The warmth, the connection, and the sense of safety between them said more than words ever could. In the months that followed, Emma realized that her life had changed in ways she hadn't imagined. She had come to the ranch uncertain and nervous, expecting only work and solitude. Instead, she had found friendship, trust, and something that felt like the beginning of love, steady, patient, and real. Jack and Emma continued to work side by side, their days filled with chores, laughter, and shared stories. They celebrated small victories, the repair of a fence, the safe delivery of a calf, the harvest of a new crop. And through it all, the quiet connection between them grew stronger. Not rushed, not forced, but natural and enduring. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the sky blazed with color, Emma looked at Jack and felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had found more than a place to work. She had found someone who understood patience, kindness, and the value of quiet gestures. And as they stood together, watching the world around them, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together hand in hand. Because sometimes, the smallest gestures, like holding someone's hand slowly, gently, and without rush, were enough to change a life completely.